Cat. Alright. My cat is making a cameo for this now. It was requested by someone before where she just walked by in the background, like, why isn't she in the video? There you go. There you go, Stacy. You asked. You have a cat now. Alright. Back to the stand. I'm sorry, Ben. Hello, everyone. I am back for my review of The Stand by Stephan King. We're going to talk about what it's about, if you are one of the 6 people who doesn't know what this book is about, what I liked about it, and what I didn't like. I just went to hit this book. I need to not hit the book I'm reviewing this time. I'm working on it. So, this was the first book by Stephan King that I have ever read, and right now you might be thinking to yourself, hey Jake, isn't it a terrible idea that when you're trying an author to read a 470,000 word absolute mammoth of a book? And the answer is yes, it is a bad idea. It probably was not the smartest place to start, but I'd heard it was his best work, and you know, with what's going on, it seemed thematically fitting. So it was the one I decided to go with. And don't hate me, Stephen King fan. This is not going to be a negative review. It's also not going to be a positive review. It's going to be a little bit mixed, because that would be how I would describe my feelings of this book. Very mixed. There were some things I really liked, and a lot of small issues that really added up, and then one kind of big thing I didn't like. So, we are going to start with what it's about for the 6 people in the world who don't know the general premise of The Stand. It's COVID, but a million times worse, and then Lord of the Rings set in the continental USA. There you go. That's my plot synopsis for you. Oh, actually, there's some Sims, the video game, in there as well, in between Lord of the Rings on the continental US and COVID, but a million times worse. So, first we're going to talk about the things I really like about this book, because there are a couple of them. And the premise that I just talked about it's a great idea for a story. Like, it's a really fantastic premise, and you know, it's executed well. I thought going for like the post-apocalyptic into like Battle of Good and Evil, it worked really, really well. It does have a Dark Lord, and that's not a trope I'm the biggest fan of. But as Stephen King remembered to give his Dark Lord a personality, a lot of people, their Dark Lord, their personality is that they're evil, which is not a personality, but the Walking Dude does have a personality, and as Dark Lord, so he's pretty interesting. And that brings me to the second and biggest pro for this book, and the thing that carries it into being a book that I still am more positive on than negative on, is the characters. As I said in my previous review, and will probably say numerous times, characters are the most important factor in my enjoyment of a book. And this is a very, very large cast of characters. All of them are interesting. All of them have something kind of unique about them, and they all feel distinctive. I think it says a lot that in a book with this many characters, I very rarely forgot who was who. I think my favorite character is definitely Nick. Every time we got to the Nick chapters, I'd be like, woohoo. But really the entire cast is very well developed. There's a lot of really fantastic arcs in here. Kind of the main 4, which would be Franny, Stu, Larry, and Nick, all have a great arc for the book that never feels rushed and always feels natural. And really the strongest aspect of this book is characters for both voice and character development. This was my first Stephen King book, and right away I noticed that he's very, very good at making all his characters think and talk in a unique voice. I think you could probably pretty much figure out who was talking, who it was, even if you removed all the names, just based on how they saw the world. And it's also full of a lot of really, really interesting side characters who have great arcs on their own. Harold has a really a lot of character development for sure, as does Nadine and Lloyd. We didn't get a lot of Lloyd chapters, but I enjoyed the ones that we got. So that's why, even though time-wise there might be more of this review, which is going to start now, that's negative, it does the most important thing well, and another really well, actually. And that's why I can understand why this is some people's favorite book, because characterization-wise, it really is excellent. But there are a lot of things that kind of start chipping it away from me. And some of it I will say in more specific and spoilers, but I am going to have to get started on the things that I didn't like. And the one that came out first was just the writing style. I find, it's hard to explain, but I find King's writing style to be very unfocused at times, where someone will be going through a train of thought, and then without any kind of paragraph break or anything, it'll just go to a completely different subject without really linking the two. So I actually found, even though the new book I read before this was Dune, which is a crazy world with all this terminology, and this is set in the US, so it's I know all the terminology, and yet I found Dune easier to follow just because I like the writing style so much more. And obviously that's going to be something that is going to vary a lot from people. Obviously Stephen King is an immensely successful author, so it seems to work for plenty of people, but for me, it was not a writing style I particularly enjoyed. And the next thing that bothered me, this only shows up for the beginning really, but for every first chapter he has with a character, there's just a 5-page info dump on their entire backstory. And you got 1,200 pages to tell me their backstory, and for me to teach a character, and he totally front loads everyone's backstory as soon as we meet them, and it was not engaging, and frankly, I think it's a pretty lazy way to have backstory of a character. Just, this is Larry, and then just Larry thinks about his life for the last year and how he got to where he is now. Thank you. And that kind of bothered me. The next thing that was not the greatest was pacing. This book, there's one that I think a lot of people, it won't bother some people, but it was obviously a deliberate choice, and I find it very baffling. And that's for book 2, he goes from 10-page chapters to 60-page chapters. And please let me know down below. I'm wondering if there's anyone who likes it when a third of the way in the book, the chapters increase in size by 400 to 600%. Because, man, it's a strange choice to me. I don't get it. I like short chapters personally, but I think even if I liked long chapters, I would find it a little bit grating. And I know that has nothing to do with the content of the book, and it probably bothers me more than it should, but it's also just such a strange decision to me, because it would have taken, it's not like it takes any talent or skill to write shorter chapters, and I know it doesn't actually change the words in here, but damn, did it really make a good 200-page stretch feel really slow. And then there's another 200-page stretch that is actually slow. So I struggled a bit for the middle 400 pages. Even though the character work was really, really well done, I still struggled, which is pretty rare for me. I usually don't struggle that much with slow pacing for books. I usually can burn through it, but it's like an entire book worth of being slow. So sorry to all the Stephen King fans, but this was definitely not a book I loved. I think I'm gonna give it a 5.8 out of 10. I overall still think it had more good quality. It was more good than bad, but it really had a lot of things I was not a huge fan of. So that is going to be my rating, and I am going to talk about some spoilers, because I didn't mention I also was not a big fan of the ending, but I can't really say why I didn't like the ending in the spoiler-free section, because that would spoil the ending. So, if you have not read The Stand, go away. Leave. And maybe go read it. I don't know if I could really recommend. I'd probably not do what I did and read a shorter Stephen King book first, and then if you like the shorter Stephen King book, then read this. But I think the way I did it, of starting with a 470,000 word book, is not good. So, spoilers. The ending. They nuked, Trash Can Man just kind of nuked him. The climax was not a climax. And I didn't think it was a Deus Ex Machina. I've heard, it was kind of literally a Deus Ex Machina. But a Deus Ex Machina to me is when something isn't set up. And they were basically told that the only way to win was through light magic. And, if you walk this entire way with the clothes on your back, with the food that you have on you right now, and you make it to Las Vegas, then God will intercede and win for you. I didn't take it that literally when they were told that, but hey, that was set up. The thing that bothers me is that I don't get why they had to walk there. Like, it just seems like Stephen King is writing a God that just messes with him for no discernible reason, because if they just stayed in Boulder and played the ukulele, Trash Can Man still would have had the falling out with Randolph Lag, and still would have gotten the nuke, and still would have come back with the nuke. So, basically, as far as I can tell, a cat. Alright. My cat is making a cameo for this now. It was requested by someone before where she just walked by in the background, like, why isn't she in the video? There you go. There you go, Stacy. You asked. You have a cat now. Alright. Back to The Stand. I'm sorry, Ben. But yeah, it seems like they could have just stayed in Boulder and the same thing would have happened. So it kind of, when that happened, I was just like, what was the point of the last 200 pages? So, comes down to it, it's like, I wasn't a huge fan of the first few hundred pages, partially because of all the exposition dumps and backstory dumps. I wasn't a big fan of the middle 400 pages because of pacing issues. And then the last couple hundred pages ended up kind of being pointless. There was a section I really liked, but it ended with Nick dying. Damn it! Why'd you kill Nick? Alright, that was really tense. Like, that was the most intense part where I was gripped. And it was fantastic. And then it ended with blowing Nick up. Anyway, that's really all I gotta say about The Stand. Overall, very mixed. I probably will read more Stephen King eventually, but not anytime soon. And I will be trying a shorter book by him. I will not be going straight into It or 11/22/63. I've learned my lesson to not start with the absolute unit. But all the King fans, you can let me know in the comments why I'm totally wrong and The Stand is the greatest thing ever, and why I'm just a big stupid dumb face. Or maybe people here agree with me, and I'm not the only person who didn't like The Stand. I didn't dislike The Stand, but you know what I mean. So, let me know. Have a nice day, everyone.